There's something really devastating about how addiction can creep into our lives. It hardly ever shows up with a big, dramatic entrance. Nope. Usually, it starts with just a whisper. And that's really where the story begins. Let's dig into how these habits that seem so harmless can actually be signs of something way, way deeper.
I mean, it can look like this, right? You're on your ninth scroll through Instagram in like under a minute. Your thumb is just moving on its own. It's this mindless twitch, and you're searching for some kind of spark, but you can't even name what it is.
Or maybe it's this one. It's that second glass of wine on a Tuesday. You're not celebrating anything. It's more like a quiet negotiation with all the stress from the day. Just a way to turn down the volume on the noise inside your own head.
And oh yeah, it definitely looks like this. The promise you make to yourself, just one more episode. And then that turns into an entire season, blurring that line between just relaxing and flat out escaping. It all feels so normal, until one day it just doesn't.
And that's when this kind of devastating truth hits you. The whole game has changed. You're not chasing a high anymore. You're escaping a low. And the really scary part, so many of us are running from a shadow we don't even know is chasing us.
But what if we've been looking at this whole thing completely backward? If you could ask the great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, he wouldn't even focus on the behavior. Not at all. He'd ask about your soul. For Jung, the addiction isn't the problem. It's the symptom. It's the medicine you're taking for a wound you can't even see. And this slide really breaks it down. See, modern treatment, a lot of the time, focuses on the behavior. It's like putting a patch on a leaky pipe. But Jung's approach, totally different. He wants to know why the pipe is leaking in the first place. He doesn't just patch the leak, he wants to fix the entire foundation of the house. Jung had this incredible term for it, spiritual thirst. He believed that what we think is a craving for a substance or a behavior is actually a deep, unconscious craving for wholeness, for a connection to our real, authentic self. It's your soul crying out for itself, just longing to come home. So what causes this spiritual thirst? I mean, what carves out that empty space inside that the addiction then rushes in to fill? Well, it has everything to do with our own inner wiring, and maybe more importantly, the parts of ourselves we were taught we had to leave behind. And this is the trap it creates. It's this self-perpetuating loop of disconnection. See, it all starts with this feeling of inner emptiness. That leads to a dopamine crash, where life just feels gray and flat. So to cope, we jump into an escape behavior. That gives us a little temporary relief, but what comes next? Shame. And that shame just digs that hole of inner emptiness even deeper, and the loop starts all over again. But where did that emptiness even come from in the first place? Jung would trace it all the way back to something he called psychic splitting. This usually happens when we're kids. We learn that certain parts of us, maybe our righteous anger, our deep sadness, our wild creativity, they aren't welcome. So we do what we have to do to belong. We bury them. We create a mask, a persona that's acceptable to everyone else, and in the process, we cut off a vital connection to our own soul. Now, this is where Jung's work becomes so incredibly powerful. He asks us to reframe the entire thing. Your addiction isn't a moral failing. It's not a sign of weakness. It is a desperate message from the exiled parts of you, a call from your unconscious that is just begging to be heard. As Jung himself put it, we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. See, healing isn't about ignoring the problem or just thinking happy thoughts. It's about having the guts to finally turn around and face the very parts of ourselves we've been running from. So the invitation here is to completely change your perspective. These patterns you have, they aren't failures, they're clues. Think of them like smoke signals rising from some lost part of your inner world. They aren't trying to destroy you. They're trying to guide you back home to yourself.
Okay, so if addiction is a message, how in the world do we learn to listen to it? Well, Jung gave us a map, not just to understand the problem, but to actually navigate our way back to wholeness. So let's look at 3 really practical tools you can use to start this work of reconnection.
First, and this is probably the most important one, is what Jung called shadow work. Now, the shadow is just his term for all the parts of ourselves that we've pushed down, the good, the bad, the messy, all the stuff we're afraid to even admit is there. Shadow work is simply the brave process of making that unconscious stuff conscious, of turning to face it with curiosity instead of judgment. And you can start this right now. Seriously, try this journaling prompt. Just ask yourself, if my addiction had a voice, what would it say to me? And don't edit yourself. Don't judge what comes out. You're not looking for some perfect, poetic answer. You're just opening a door that's been locked for a really, really long time. You might be shocked at the wisdom that's been waiting for you. All right, the second tool is a more modern practice, but it lines up perfectly with Jung's ideas: breath work. Now, Jung himself didn't teach specific breathing techniques, but he definitely understood that the body is a gateway to the unconscious. By using conscious, rhythmic breathing, you can actually bypass that critical thinking part of your brain and tap directly into the stored emotional energy that your addiction has been working so hard to keep numb. A really powerful breathwork session can lead to this profound aha moment. It can clear out all that stuck energy and reveal a simple, stunning truth. The thing you were so desperately craving, it wasn't the drink, or the scroll, or the distraction. It was a connection with your own self. And the third tool is one that speaks the soul's native language: symbolic ritual. Jung often said that our psyche communicates through images and symbols, not spreadsheets and logic, right? So when words aren't enough, a conscious, symbolic act can reopen that conversation with your inner world and create these incredible shifts in your awareness. And look, this doesn't have to be some complex ceremony. It can be super simple and powerful. Try this. Light a candle. Sit with a mirror and just look at yourself with compassion. Then say out loud, "I'm here. I'm ready to listen." And finally, write a letter to that struggling, addicted part of you, not to scold it, but to finally understand it. You're basically signaling to your deepest self that the civil war is over. You're coming home as an ally. So, once we start using these tools, what does healing actually look like? Well, the goal isn't to go back to the person you were before the addiction. Let's be honest, that person was already standing on a shaky foundation. The goal is to go through the fire and be forged into someone new, someone more whole and more authentic than you've ever been before. And this whole journey actually has a name: individuation. It's the lifelong process of becoming your whole integrated self. And this isn't about being perfect or polished. No way. It's about reclaiming all those lost parts of you, the shadow and the light, the responsible adult and the playful inner child, and weaving them all together into one authentic life.
And what if you stumble? What about relapse? Well, Jung's perspective on this is just incredibly compassionate. A relapse isn't shameful. It's just information. It's your psyche basically saying, hey, you missed a piece of the puzzle. Let's go back and look again. You're not back at square one. You're just on a deeper level of the journey. And now you have more wisdom than you did before.
Ultimately, the journey through addiction becomes the very path to your liberation. The thing that you thought was breaking you, it becomes the doorway to the truest version of yourself. So in the end, the question isn't, how do I stop this behavior? The real question, the one this whole journey is inviting you to ask, is this: what is your soul trying to tell you?